Hey guys, I think we're live. I think we're live on Facebook. Happy Friday. This is our new favorite Friday thing to do. Just hang out with Karen Lynch, Coach Karen Lynch, and drink tea. I'm drinking tea today instead of coffee. So for those of you that don't know, we're actually on your page, Karen. So you probably know Karen. You may not know me. So Karen, Coach Karen Lynch, Life Liberator. And I am Andrea Anderson, the CEO of Productive Environment Institute. And I asked Karen if I could interview her. She is one of our certified productive environment specialists. She is a certified productivity coach. And I asked her if we could do a specialist spotlight. So a productivity specialist spotlight. So today I'm just going to ask Karen some questions and we're going to hang out. So we hope you will join us and hang in there and learn a little bit about Karen. For those of you that don't know who she works with, how she helps people be more productive so they can accomplish their work and enjoy their lives, without disorganization and overwhelm. That's really what we're here talking about. So Karen, you want to give a shout out to your people and then we'll get started.
Hey, I just hope that anybody living in Northern California is staying dry. I just got notice that Highway 92, which leads from my side over to the coast, is shut down. There's a big sinkhole on the bridge. So hopefully everybody's staying safe and just glad to be here. I don't have my coffee or tea today, though.
Well, it's the end of the day for me over here on the East Coast. So I'm winding down with some hot tea. I figured I'd had enough coffee this morning, but so you know what? I have a kind of an obvious question that some people may ask. You call yourself, and this Facebook page that we're live on right now is called Karen Lynch Life Liberator. What do you mean by Life Liberator, and how did you come up with that name? Let's start there.
Well, I had my first job when I was 12. When I was in college and I met my husband, I was working 3 jobs. And then when my mother became ill with cancer in 2013, and after having a pulmonary embolism, I was really tired of working for everybody else. And I just felt like I didn't have any freedom. And I thought, I really need to liberate myself. I started working with a coach, and I was looking for a way to feel, to just do away with the weight of worry, work, and just stuff. And so I feel liberated. I'm living my life and I'm liberated.
So you feel liberated, and then you decided you want to help other women, other professional women do the same. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, I love working with women who have families and children at home still, or women who have children leaving the nest. There's just a lot of emotional attachment and connection there. And I thrive in that environment. Been there, done that, going through it still, but.
So who better to teach it? Who better to lead somebody else through? They always say, have you heard the phrase, walk through the minefield behind somebody else? Like,
yes.
They know where the things are. They know where the mines are, the landmines are, and they can guide you. And that's what you've done. So you've done it for yourself, and now you're leading and guiding other people through. So you mentioned a couple of, you work with professional women. What are some of the types of people you work with? What kind of professionals, and also, do you only work with professionals? Kind of talk to us about that.
Well, I like to tell people I work with professional women with ADHD primarily, but that actually touches a lot of women. There are so many women out there who are not professionally diagnosed with ADHD, who acquire it just based on the hormonal changes during menopause. So I've worked with bankers and attorneys and law firm administrators. I work with stay-at-home moms just running the business of life, because believe it or not, there's a lot going on behind the scenes at home as well. Teachers, one of my favorite clients is a teacher, and I love working with her because she works with children who have ADHD and special needs. I work with marketing professionals, some real estate agents. I have an artist and an author and an editor. So it's everything from people who are very creative and who have a lot of responsibility to the creative type as well. So, yeah.
So how did you kind of land on women with ADHD? Like, why women with ADHD, and how do you help them?
Well, when my son was in the 8th grade, he'll be 17 next month. During the height of the pandemic, he was diagnosed with ADHD. And when my husband and I received that diagnosis, it was shocking to us just because there were so many different things that had I known he had ADHD, I would have done differently, and just strategies and systems that we could have put in place before the diagnosis. But after that, I could really relate to him, and it's just working with him and making things easier for him. I saw in myself a little hint of ADHD as well. I could blame hormones, but I definitely have that kind of all over brain too. And I think that's why it's really important for me. I know that if I can create a productive environment and run the business of life and my business and my family, and be focused, that I can bring that to others as well. But it was really my son and just seeing him struggle, and now he's doing amazing. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And some of you, that being part of Productive Environment Institute, that our founder, Barbara Hemphill, who was a founder really of the entire organizing and productivity industry over 40 years ago, she has ADHD. And so she developed simple systems for herself to be able to overcome that, so that she can find what she needed when she needed it. And that just kind of turned into a whole, not just a business, but an industry. And so it's a perfect fit for you.
it is. And looking back in my childhood, and looking at what I did and my process and the systems that I did going through elementary school, through middle school, through high school, and even through college, just to get me from here to here successfully. Color coding, everything always came down to having to have a good system. I had to have it organized, it had to be a specific way. And it would be trial and error, but as soon as I had it running, it was smooth sailing. And I was able to do a lot of different things, and juggle a lot of different things, because each thing in my life, whether it was work or even my husband when we were dating, or my college, my studies, everything was managed a certain way. And with the ADHD brain, you need some structure and some support behind that. So I love Barbara, and I can totally relate to her, what she went through growing up too.
Yeah. And it comes down to what we talk about often, having core structure with flexibility. And people with ADHD, and not just people with ADHD, but anybody, because some people get, we all need structure, but then some people get completely confined and feel confined by structure, and then they rebel. And so that we find that core structure with flexibility works really well. And I love that, what we teach and what you teach is that it's not one size fits all. Everybody is different, and you lead clients through a specific process to find out what will work for them. It's not, you should do this or you have to do it this way.
Right. I think also the thing that really makes it so rewarding, once the system is in place, it's easy recovery. So if you were to look at my desk now, I've been working. And so I do have papers on my desk, but the recovery is super, super fast. And it isn't this, I've got to tackle this and I don't know how to do it. It really is. I know exactly what to do to get in and get it back in order. So it's that quick recovery that makes it really nice as well.
And this wasn't one of the questions I was going to ask you, but you just made me think of it. So hopefully you're okay with me asking. When you first came into the program as a trainee to become a certified productive environment specialist, you experienced something like revolutionary for you. Like you were looking for something and you weren't able to find it otherwise, and then you had done your assignment, and so you had actually put your system in place.
Right. And it's so different than just the traditional old school way of doing things, that it was a little bit, it was kind of a little bit of a shift in attitude. And but once I started the program and seeing the simplicity of how it all came together, it made it much easier for me. But yeah, I wouldn't teach somebody a process that I wasn't doing myself. And I think that with the productive environment, especially around the business of life or the business of work and papers and stuff like that, there's I have a system for it applies to everything in the house and in the office, and that's what makes it really beautiful.
Yeah. And just in case somebody's wondering what we mean by the business of life, we talk about sometimes that whether you have an actual business or not, or you're professional or not, everyone needs a home office for the business of life. And it may not be a separate room, but it's, it's a kind of a command center where you have, your business of life is taxes, mail,
Right.
pay for anything, DMV, all those things that we have to keep up with and do. So having a home office for the business of life, regardless of whether you have a business or not. So
Right.
everybody
Right.
needs it. So we talked about, the kinds of people that you work with, professional women with ADHD. But what are some characteristics of those women that make them kind of the best, the clients you've worked with? What makes them the best clients? And if anybody else is listening and thinking, oh, I might want to work with Karen, like what kinds of people do you love to work with? What characteristics do they have?
Somebody who's definitely willing to make the commitment for permanent change. I am not the quick fixer or the task worker. Can I do those? Absolutely. But experience has shown me working with clients who have hired the task rabbit person or the person that'll come in for X number of dollars an hour. It shows me that clients are going to end up spending that money again. And I'll take for an example, I have a client who had hired an organizer. She also hired somebody, just, a friend. And with the friend, she was on vacation, and the friend came in and organized the entire house the way the friend would work in that space. And she came back, the house was clean, it was organized, but then my client couldn't find anything. And it turned out my client had a kind of a different way of finding things. And this other client had, storage baskets that were ovals that the client couldn't see in. And the client is a visual person. She needs to see stuff. So she needed clear bins. So it didn't work out well for her. So then she ended up hiring a professional organizer who had her invest in all of the products that you see on, in the Container Store and at Target. And so again, it looked neat and organized, but what the organizer failed to do was really get through the clutter and work out through the clutter. And so that didn't work out. So when she called me, it was really to say, I need a system. I need something that's going to take me from here to here and that I can manage. She literally didn't have people coming to her home because she was, embarrassed by the state of her home and the papers and the books and all that. So I am happy to say I've been working with her for almost 2.5 years, and I'm so proud of her. She's like my poster child. She's able to maintain, her home on her own, and I recently did her office, and so just she's been able to do the bulk of it, herself. She's got my guidelines, and anyway, it's yeah.
I love it.
I love it too.
Well, it kind of segues into my next question, and kind of, for people that have worked with professional organizers before, and I've heard all of the stories through the years of people who said, I hired an organizer, and same thing. And in fact, my situation was the same thing with my boss that I worked for. I would go in and spend all this time getting her organized while she was away. And then she would come back and say, well, it looks great, but I can't find anything. And so, oh my God, we went through that over and over and over until I finally found Barbara Hemphill, and I found this system, and this was what solved the problem.
Right.
And so, but you mentioned earlier that, with your friend that she had gone on vacation and a friend came in and organized her, and like that did not work. So how are you different than how do you work with clients that's different than a traditional organizer?
Well, I'm a certified life coach, and through CTI, and I've been a life coach for a long time. And one of the things in that training is really working through emotions. So I'm not a therapist, but I understand using intuition and looking at body language, the emotion. And so when we go through life, unless you're really in touch with your sensitivity and your emotions, most people want to push their emotions down, right? But emotions come and they go, and it's always best and you're most successful when you're able to work through the emotions. So imagine you're standing in a river and the water's coming up to your knees in that stream or that river, the water will hit your knee and then it'll go down, and then, you know, it kind of, it rises and falls. And that's how emotions are. And so when a client hires a professional organizer, they have got to the point where I just want it done, just get it done. They are really pushing down the emotion. And so, yeah, I don't come in and magically organize things when people go on vacation. I actually work side by side with the client. I watch their reaction, look for their emotion, and ask questions. And that's what I'm trained to do as a life coach, trained to ask questions as we evaluate their things. There is a lot of emotion, and dealing with that is the hardest for a client. You know, it's the money. It cost me this much money, or I bought it, it still has the tags on, it's hard for me to let go. My mother gave it to me, it's been in our family for years. It allows me that time to talk with a client and talk about that item. I'm not telling the client what they need to get rid of or what they should hold on to, but I ask questions around those items so that way they can determine on their own that they're able to let it go. So it's more than putting things into a basket and labeling. It's uncovering and looking for the reasons why they have the clutter, why they have the piles of paper, why they have something all over their desk, and really I help them to overcome that obstacle. So when they're done working with me, they're able to go through. I have clients, I hear your voice in my head. I'm sitting there and looking at this and I hear Karen's voice. She's asking me, you know, how long have you had it? You know, they're asking the questions that I would ask, and they're able to make decisions on their own. So I like permanent change. I don't want to come in and organize. Organizing is part of the process, but it's not the primary focus. It's getting the client to move to permanent change.
So you're not just doing it for them and then them not knowing how to do it. Like when you go get your hair done and it looks perfect on that day, but then you can't recreate what the hairstylist did at home. You're actually
right.
Right. You're like,
right.
So you're actually teaching your clients what you're doing. You're not just doing it for them. You're transferring your skill and your knowledge to them so that they can do it.
Right. Right. And they also, you know, it's funny because it's kind of like, I don't want to say give them permission, because I'm not telling them, again, I'm not telling them that they have to keep them but they learn to be more forgiving of themselves, right? There's less of the inner critic saying, you have so much stuff, and really beating them down. Because, you know, as we've gone through the process, it's like I'm giving them permission to let things go. Or that's what they tell me. It's like they feel okay, right? They feel supported. And so they can actually take that feeling and that experience and do it on their own. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's interesting. We always say that, you know, our client, people sometimes may feel bad. Like, I shouldn't have to hire someone to help me do this. I shouldn't have to hire somebody to help me declutter or organize. You know, I should be able to do this on my own. Well, you guys, I am the CEO of Productive Environment Institute, and I needed somebody to help me. Like, I just moved and I had that attachment to so many things in my space. And I actually had a couple of people, a friend who came in, and then Carrie, who's one of our specialists here in my hometown. She came in and helped me. And I needed someone like you, Karen. Even though I know questions, I teach the questions. I knew it, but it was my stuff.
Right.
So, and I was stuck in it. So I needed to have a professional come in and help me, ask me those questions. And that's one of the things I love about what we do. And you just alluded to it as well. We don't ever tell people they should throw something away or give something away, or they should keep it. It's not our decision. It's not your decision.
Right. Well, you know, it's so funny because as you were telling me about your stuff and your move, and I was there before you moved, and then I haven't seen you since you moved, but it's kind of like that, having that old fuzzy cozy blanket kind of draped over you. You get so used to kind of walking around the house and your slippers a blanket on. It's hard to let it go, right? So sometimes you just need a little bit of help.
It is. I had twinges. I went back to my old place to get some, get a few things. The people that had moved in, like, they let me come in because I had left a lot of furniture and stuff for them, and I went back to get a few things. And I still had those twinges when I went in. I was like, oh, I gave them, a chair that I loved and my dining room table that I loved. And even though I don't need it, I have new stuff. But it's still like, oh, I love that, and so it's hard. It's hard for all of us. So, having someone else come in and help you go through this process is highly, highly recommended.
Right.
So let's talk about some of your past clients. So what are some things that they've learned, and some changes, like really, what are some changes that you had clients make after, working with you? What are a couple of examples of that?
Oh, I love seeing the changes. So I have a client who actually saved her marriage. Her clutter had been so disruptive that it stifled her teen kids and her husband. It was really bad. And so yeah, she's got a good marriage, solid marriage now. Her husband is happy. Everything is running smoothly. And I think the kids actually benefited from that as well, because they've learned some techniques as well, and tricks. I also have a client who has been traveling the world. I mean, I asked her what's going on, and she's been to Paris, she's been to New York, she's all over the world, all over the place, and she's working remotely. Because I said, do you have all the vacation time? And she got her system up and running so well, and she is in the banking industry that she's able to work wherever she wants. And not only is she traveling, but she's taking cooking classes on her travels as well. And then when she's back in the Bay Area, she's cooking at home. So that was really exciting to hear. I have a client who changed jobs. She left the corporate world, and she's now in a nursing program, and just loves helping people. And it's so rewarding. I get goosebumps because, I don't think, again, it's that warm blanket. We're so conditioned, right, to stay in that warm, cozy cocoon. And it's painful coming out of the cocoon. And but when they come out, they're like, oh, I've got all these opportunities. They feel so light and so and lifted that they see some opportunities beyond what they've had.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some other things that kind of all of your clients experience? There's, like,
oh God. Increased self-confidence, reduction of spending. Oh my gosh, I had a lot of clients that would do the red cart therapy. Target, just kind of wander around. I call it red cart therapy. But I'll get a text message and a picture. This was my cart when I came in, and this is my cart leaving. I put everything in, and because again, we're talking about techniques and tricks. It's okay to put in the cart. Let's just make sure that when you get to the check stand, if you really don't need it, it doesn't need to be in the cart. And definitely more time for themselves. I talk about this on my LinkedIn. I love putting this on my LinkedIn profile. I have more time to bake sourdough bread and dog biscuits. Those are two I love to bake, and I love to eat bread. So, we all get, more time for ourselves, and who doesn't like a little bit more time for ourselves?
That's nice. That's nice. And that's good, because a lot of times people think they should get organized and be more productive and more efficient so they can work more, so they can get done at work.
No more work.
But that's why our tagline is accomplish your work and enjoy your life. And by you making the dog biscuits and the bread, that's something you want to do, you love to do. So I definitely encourage people to, what would you do more of? If you had, an extra hour a day, what would you do with that time?
I like that. I'm going to write that down. I like that.
Like that?
I do.
Yeah, seriously, like if you had an extra hour a day, then that is 5 hours a week. That's a half a day.
That's a lot, right?
That's
right.
Yep. So, wrapping up, what are some things that people should know about your approach? Again, kind of how you work with people, and what is, I guess it's kind of recap them what we talked about how are you different? What should people know?
Well, I think the one thing that people really need to know is that they're not just getting my time, that, they're receiving a solution that's going to help them stay organized for a lifetime. So it's not just my time, it's the solution that's, that they're getting. Again, I do a do it with you or done with you approach via a done for you approach. So I'm coaching, I'm teaching, I'm helping them to maintain, I'm helping them get through the hurdles, so they can carry on well after the work with them is complete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. And that's the other thing too, is with the work we do, you may work with a client kind of in their office with them, not for them, but with them. And then that's not the end of it. Like we can do a lot in a day, really, by putting in a system that will last, but then also kind of having productivity tune-ups and, life happens, being able to work with someone throughout a whole year or a whole season, really makes a difference. Because just because you get quote, get organized in January doesn't mean you're gonna, you've got tax season coming up, and then you've got
Right.
the stuff in the summer, and then you've got the holidays. And so kind of working with someone through all of those ups and downs and seasons makes a difference. And the way you don't charge by, you mentioned this earlier, you don't charge by the hour. We don't charge by the hour. We charge by the solution, really. So ultimately over time, people can actually save money because you're not like always looking at your watch, or to people who don't wear watches, you're not always looking at the time, so that over the long run, people can save money because they don't have to, keep having an organizer come back in and clean up after them again years and years and years. Because the
Right.
problem is,
Right.
some tune-ups, but overall it's pretty much solved.
Right.
So
Exactly. And with some of the packages I offer, there's an opportunity for the clients for additional coaching and group coaching. So I
Right.
think there's a lot of support behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It depends on what the client, it depends on the support the client needs.
Yeah. And that's again what I like. It's not a one size fits all. It's what works for that particular client.
Right.
And over time. So I think that's great.
Right.
So as we wrap up on this beautiful Friday afternoon, how can someone work with you? What should they do first to connect with you? How can they find you?
Well, they can send me a direct message on Facebook. They can go to the Productive Environment Network, which I don't know if you can post that in the chat, the link.
Yeah, we can post a link in the chat, and this video we're going to put in the network as well. So if people are watching this in the network, just go up to the little chat thing at the top of your screen, and there's a little button there. You can just search for Karen's name.
Yeah, and then the other thing they can do is they can Coach Karen Lynch is my website, so all the information is there as well. So there's links.
KarenLynch.com, right?
CoachKarenLynch.com, and they can do. I always encourage people to do a productive environment scorecard. That gives. There's no perfect score. I'm just going to tell people I don't even have a perfect score, but there's always room for improvement. But they can do a scorecard as well and have a conversation. So
yeah, find out what your productive environment score is.
Yes, and then we'll put together a game plan.
Yep. Awesome. Well, this is great, Karen. This was fun.
Thanks, Andrea. I'm so happy to see you.
I know.
Is the sun even out where you are in North Carolina? Was it?
Oh, yeah, it's a little cloudy today, but still pretty out. It was 70 degrees earlier today.
Oh,
it was lovely. It's getting cooler, dropping again now, but still pretty.
Oh,
but I stay dry out there in California. I know you've had so much rain, so we've been thinking about you guys. So hang in there.
Thank you. So we're gonna do this again next month, I hope, right?
Absolutely. So you guys watch for us. It'll be a Friday afternoon. We'll be drinking tea, coffee, or water, whatever. Grab something and hang out with us for about 20-30 minutes, and pick up some organizing, some productivity tips. But definitely, if anything we talked about resonates with you, reach out to Karen, CoachKarenLynch.com. Again, if you're on Facebook, you could send her a direct message. If you're in our Productive Environment Network, you can also send her a direct message in the top. Just search her name and she'll come up there. So, and the last time we met was in December, and we talked about the Swift file solution. So I think we should, we'll post a link to that live in this, in the comments of this live. So if you guys missed that one, you're going to want to go back and watch and learn about the Swift file, which is one of our absolute favorite tools. We talk about, everything's so high tech these days, and the Swift file is a low tech tool that can combine with your high tech tools to really help you not have anything fall through the cracks. So here in North Carolina, we say that we do we do high tech, low tech, no tech, and redneck. So we've got everything covered for you. And the Swift file is a low tech, no tech.
I cannot top that one. I think where I am, it's all high tech, then low tech, but definitely no tech or redneck.
On the East Coast. All right, with that, we will leave you guys today. So I am going to stop this live stream, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.